Once the center of the Ottoman Empire, Turkey is now rising again, this time as a modern geopolitical force. Famous for its tourism and culture, Turkey is far more than meets the eye. With 49 million tourists in 2023, a booming defense industry, and the second largest military in NATO, Turkey is reclaiming influence on a global scale. After World War I, Turkey aligned with the West, joining NATO and pursuing EU membership. But today, that's changing. Turkey is pivoting east, deepening ties with Russia, China, and BRICS, and establishing new footing in the world order. So why is Turkey turning away from the West? What's behind this shift, and could it signal the return of Turkey as a major global power? This is the story of Turkey's return and why it has more power than you think. Turkey's economy at a glance. With a GDP per capita of $16.88 thousand and a GDP of $1.46 trillion, Turkey today is the 17th largest economy on the planet and rapidly growing. Turkey is one of the few countries that maintained its annual GDP growth rate in positive figures even during the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, other than 1 year during the global recession, Turkey's GDP has only been growing at a rapid rate since 2003. The year when current Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan first took charge as Prime Minister. During this period, Turkish citizens' purchasing power has grown by more than 3.5 times, which is just massive. All of this while Turkey hosts 3.14 million refugees, a number higher than the number of refugees in any country after Iran. According to estimates, Turkey has paid a total cost of $50 billion in hosting them. Turkey's economic boost has been massive for the last 2 decades, but going forward, it'll only grow further. One reason for that is that now many of those refugees will be heading back as the civil war is finally over in Syria. Another major factor is that from here on, Turkey will also be using its diverse political alliances to maximize its economic growth. If you take a look at Turkey on a world map, you'll notice that it has a strategic location that bridges Asia to Europe, making it one of the few transcontinental countries. Like its physical location, Turkey's foreign policy also shows how it's part of both sides. Turkey can be considered a part of both the Eastern and Western blocs, and no, it's not just neutral, but an active member on both sides. Turkey has remained a part of NATO since 1952, which shows it as an important member of the Western bloc. At the same time, Turkey's closest friends include some Eastern countries such as Pakistan and Qatar. Recently, Turkey has focused more on making friends in the Eastern bloc and strengthening ties with Russia and China. Turkey has also requested to join BRICS. Turkey will be using these new friends to maximize its economic potential, and
if history is any guide, Turkey will be sitting near the top of the geopolitical pyramid sooner.
We'll start with Turkey's relations with the West, but before that, if you enjoy learning more about today's economic stories, be sure to subscribe. Turkey's relations with the West. Soon after the end of World War I, the first president and founder of modern Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, modernized the country's legal and educational systems and encouraged the adoption of a European way of life, with Turkish written in the Latin alphabet and with citizens adopting European-style names. During his early years in office, he abolished the Islamic Caliphate, dismantled religious schools, and abolished religious courts and outlawed conservatism. From February to June 1926, the Swiss Civil Code, the Italian Penal Code, and the German Commercial Code were adopted, while Islamic laws were discarded. By taking such steps, Atatürk set a direction for the Turkish Republic. That is going to be a modern and secular state and not a conservative religious one. This also led to a strong foundation for an alliance between Turkey and Western countries. Throughout the 20th century, the alliance kept getting stronger and stronger. Turkey majorly remained neutral in World War II but joined the Allies during the last period of the war. In 1945, along with 50 other countries, Turkey was among the founding members of the United Nations. Turkey became a good member of the UN, actively taking part in various UN missions, including the Korean War, where 462 Turkish soldiers lost their lives and are buried in a UN memorial cemetery in Busan, South Korea. On February 18, 1952, Turkey was invited to join NATO, which it did. Since then, NATO has been a cornerstone of Turkey's defense and security policy. In 1987, Turkey applied to join what was then the European Economic Community, and in 1999 it was declared eligible to join the EU. For most of the time, Turkey was kept on a waiting list, but as recently as 2021, the EU suspended the accession negotiations with Turkey. As no country can become an EU member if any of the existing members vetoes its request to join the Union, one can argue that Turkey was never going to become an EU member. After all, Greece is one of the EU members that Turkey does not have a good relationship with. Cyprus would also veto Turkey's request, as Turkey holds more close ties with the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a self-governing territory in the northern part of Cyprus that claims to be independent but is recognized only by Turkey. Nonetheless, Turkey and the EU remain key strategic partners, actively collaborating on issues such as climate, migration, security, counterterrorism, and the economy. Overall, Turkey remains strong and has healthy relations with the West. Now let's take a look at its relations with the East. Turkey and the East. Turkey is said to have leaned completely westward before Erdogan rose to power, and while this is true, there were some close Turkish allies in the East, even during the 20th century. The most notable among them is Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan and Turkey share deep ethnic, linguistic, and cultural ties. The phrase "one nation, two states" is often used to convey how close these two are. Another long-lasting Turkish ally from the East is Pakistan. The two countries have always enjoyed strong military and diplomatic relations, supporting each other on issues like Kashmir and Cyprus. Turkey also kept close ties with various other eastern countries. However, the number of eastern allies increased significantly for Turkey only after Erdogan rose to power. Erdogan focused on Turkey's Islamic identity and had one motto: "Make Turkey great again." A number of Turkish series that portray the Ottoman Empire as a glorious past of Turkey have been aired in not just Turkey but also several other countries. Let's take the show Kuruluş Osman, for example. This series depicting the life of Osman I, founder of the Ottoman dynasty, has been dubbed in Urdu, Arabic, Albanian, and Azerbaijani, gaining popularity in several countries, especially India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Okay, so I get that Erdogan has been growing ties with Muslim nations by showing them the glorious past, but what about the non-Muslim nations? Well, Turkey doesn't lag there either. Sino-Turkish relations have been growing stronger than ever since the 2010s. Turkey became part of China's BRI in 2015. Erdogan, who once condemned China's activity in the Xinjiang region, later detained hundreds of Uyghur refugees in Turkey and also designated the East Turkestan Islamic Movement as a terrorist organization in 2017. Although relations with Russia remain tense overall, they're also better today than they were 2 decades ago. Turkey has also voiced its interest in joining the informal alliance of rising economies known as BRICS. Although BRICS did not accept Turkey's membership request, they have been offered partner country status. Today, Turkey enjoys a diverse group of political allies, meaning they'll also have a diverse group of trading partners. During these years, Turkish trade with China and the East grew a lot, but this did not have any negative impact on Turkey's relation with the West. In fact, Turkey's economic ties with China expanded rapidly from 2010 to 2020. It is important to consider the broader context. Turkey's trade and investment ties with the EU member states and the US were far more significant. Overall, Turkey has an ideal foreign policy, as it will have a maximum number of healthy and friendly relations in the years to come. Turkey also has a gradually booming manufacturing and tourism industry. Turkey is also a military powerhouse, having the largest army in NATO after the US. Turkey becoming part of China's BRI and an end to the civil war in Syria will also help Turkey maintain its glory. Overall, Turkey has the perfect recipe to become the next regional superpower and global powerhouse. We think Turkey will be dominating the coming decade, but that's just our opinion. Let us know what you think. Do you think Turkey will be able to keep strengthening their ties with the East while maintaining healthy relations with the West? Or do you think they might lose their ties with both if they don't choose a side? Also, whom do you think Turkey will join first, BRICS or the EU? And do you think Turkey will actually become a regional superpower, or will that be some other country? Share with us your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video soon.